My name is Reva Golden, and I am the Education and Community Outreach Coordinator here at the Summit County Historical Society. Basically, I work with the youth and the fourth grade outreach program, and I do Harriet Tubman. A lot of information between Harriet Tubman and John Brown. I really did not know the extent of their relationship until coming here at the Historical Society. I'm very delighted every time that I get the opportunity to portray Harriet Tubman. It really is an honor. My name is Era Minta Ross. I was born on the Brodus Plantation in Dorchester County, Maryland. My mother's name was Harriet, and my father's name was Ben. And they called me Minty. But it wasn't until I got grown that I took on the name Harriet after my mother. Now, life on the plantation was hard, and that whip was always in sight to mind you what was to be expected. My master, he was a poor man. How he made his money, he hired out his slaves to other plantations for profit. And when the master up and died, everybody on the plantation started talking about selling the slaves for the South to pay the bills. And there wasn't nothing worse to a slave than to be sold for the South. And me and my brothers, we got wind that we was gonna get sold South, so we decided to escape. Never will forget, it was late one Sunday night we got to going, and my brothers got scared because they started thinking about the paddy rollers coming to get them. Now, paddy rollers, they was armed white men with guns that was hired out to catch runaway slaves and bring them back to the plantation and beat them or kill them. So we turned around and we went back, got back to that plantation for daybreak and stayed there all day that Monday. But later on that evening, I escaped to my freedom. Now, there was a movement in the South by which slaves was ushered into freedom called the Underground Railroad. Now, there wasn't no railroad. That was cold talk. Because see, the railroad and the tracks, that was the depots. Cargo was the slaves themselves. A bushel of potatoes meant that slaves was coming in up underneath a bushel of potatoes or vegetables. And a conductor was a person that led the slave from one depot to the next into freedom, and that's what I did. I was a conductor on the Underground Railroad. And as a conductor, I met a lot of influential people. I met Frederick Douglass and a man by the name of John Brown. Now, how can I describe Captain Brown? He was all fire and lightning. He stood about 6 feet and he stooped over when he walked. And he had sharp eyes, long nose, gray beard. And when I seen him, I said, look like I've seen him before. I seen him in a dream. I'll tell you about that dream in a minute. I met Captain Brown in Chatham, Canada. Chatham was one of the terminal points of the Underground Railroad, so I lived there for a while. And reason why he was there, he was hosting a convention. And the purpose of that convention was to recruit ex-slaves in Canada, make them soldiers and take them back to the United States soil to fight. And that's where I come in. See, I helped him raise money for that venture. I would speak in the New England towns, help him raise money. I showed him all of my escape routes through the region and got him in contact with my anti-slavery contact persons. But I wasn't the only one that helped him because what he wanted to do cost a lot of money. So there was other people that helped him too. There were 6 men in particular. Now, whether or not they knew one another, didn't nobody know because everything they did in secret. But they had a nickname and they was called the Secret Six. Now let me tell you about his plan. He had his heart set on a place called Harper's Ferry. And reason why he chose Harper's Ferry was because they called it the gateway to the South. There was 2 states that convened at the point of Harper's Ferry, which was Maryland and Virginia, and it had a United States arsenal full of weapons and guns and ammunition. And he felt that if he could take it over, he would win this war. But see, it didn't quite work out that way, because only 21 men went with him Everybody didn't catch on to the vision, which brings me back to that dream with his two sons went with him. He was walking in a wilderness sort of place, rocks and boulders, and behind some rocks, two small snakes raised their heads up and they looking at me. And I walked down the way. There's a bigger boulder with a larger snake raised his head up with the face of a man looking at me. I'm looking at him and he's looking at me. He's looking at me and I'm looking at him. And I'm sitting up here wondering, what we sitting up here looking at each other like that for? And then some men come with guns and they shoot those small snakes. And they go down to that boulder and they cut off the head of that big snake. And I didn't know what that dream meant till Harper's Ferry. Because see, the Marines come in. They killed most of his men, including his two sons. They captured Captain Brown. And they tried him in the state of Virginia for murder and treason. And on December 2nd, 1859, they hung my friend, Captain Brown. He was executed. But I think he was a good man. He done more in dying than 100 men in living. He was a good soldier for the Lord. I am bound for the promised land. I am bound for the promised land. Oh, will come and go with me. I am bound for the promised land.